My name is Jennifer, and I'm 31 years old. This is the story of how my stepdad and his children tried to destroy me, but I destroyed them instead. My real dad left when I was only 3 years old. He just walked out one day and never came back. My mom cried every night for a whole year. I was too little to understand, but I knew something bad happened. When I was 5, my mom met a man named Richard. He seemed nice at first. He smiled a lot and brought me candy. He took us to the park and bought me ice cream. My mom was so happy. She laughed again for the first time in years. Mom married Richard when I was 6. I was so excited because I thought I finally had a dad. At the wedding, I wore a pretty white dress. Richard picked me up and said, "You're my daughter now." I believed him. I really believed him. But everything changed after the wedding. Richard had 2 kids from his first marriage. There was Tiffany, who was 8, and Jason, who was 10. They came to live with us every weekend. And they hated me from the very first day. Tiffany would pull my hair when nobody was looking. She would hide my toys and then tell Richard that I lost them. Jason would push me down and say it was an accident. Richard always believed them and never believed me. Richard started treating me different too. When his real kids were around, he acted like I didn't exist. He would hug Tiffany and Jason but walk right past me. He would buy them new toys and tell me maybe next time when I asked for something. Mom tried to make things fair. She would talk to Richard at night. I could hear them arguing through the walls. Mom would say, "Jennifer is your daughter too now. You have to treat her the same." But Richard would say, "She's not my daughter. She's your daughter. There's a difference." Those words hurt me so bad. I thought when he married my mom, he wanted to be my dad. But I was wrong. I was just something extra that came with my mom. Like old furniture you have to keep but don't really want. Every weekend when Tiffany and Jason came over, my life became terrible. They got the best food at dinner. I got the smallest portions. They got to pick what we watched on TV. If I said anything, Richard would yell, "Stop being selfish. Let your brother and sister choose." But they weren't my brother and sister. They made sure I knew that. Tiffany would whisper mean things to me. "You're not really part of this family," she would say. "When we grow up, we'll kick you out." Jason would laugh and agree. When I was 10, something really bad happened. Richard's ex-wife died in an accident. Now Tiffany and Jason had to live with us all the time. Not just weekends. Every single day. Our house only had 3 bedrooms. Mom and Richard had 1. I had 1. And there was 1 guest room. Richard said, "Tiffany and Jason need the guest room. Jennifer, you'll share with Tiffany." I had to give up my room and share with a girl who hated me. Tiffany made my life miserable. She drew on my homework. She broke my favorite doll. She told Richard lies about me every single day. "Jennifer stole my bracelet," she would say. Jennifer said a bad word at school. None of it was true, but Richard always believed her. I cried to my mom all the time. Mom would hug me and say, "I'm so sorry, baby. I'll talk to Richard." But talking never helped. Richard didn't care. He only cared about his real kids. School was my only escape. I loved learning. I loved reading books. I was really good at math and science. My teachers said I was the smartest kid in class. That made me feel special because at home, I felt like nothing. When I was 13, I won a big science fair at school. I built a project about solar energy. The judges loved it. I got first place and a big trophy. I was so proud. I couldn't wait to show my family. I ran home with my trophy. Mom was so happy she cried. She hugged me and said, "I'm so proud of you." But Richard just looked at my trophy and said, "That's nice," in a bored voice. Then he turned to Jason and talked about Jason's baseball game for an hour. That night at dinner, Mom told everyone about my award. Tiffany rolled her eyes. Jason said, "Science is for nerds." Richard said, "Well, some people are book smart and some people are street smart. Jason here is street smart, which is more important in real life." My mom got angry. She said, "Richard, Jennifer won first place. You should be proud of her." But Richard just shrugged. "She's your daughter. You be proud of her." Those words felt like a knife in my heart. High school was hard. We didn't have much money. Mom worked 2 jobs to help pay for everything. Richard worked, but he spent most of his money on Tiffany and Jason. They got new clothes, new phones, everything they wanted. I wore old clothes from thrift stores. My shoes had holes in them. Kids at school made fun of me sometimes. But I didn't care. I focused on my grades. I knew education was my way out of that house. I applied to colleges and got accepted to a good university. But it was expensive. I got some scholarships, but I still needed more money. I asked Richard if he could help pay for college like he was paying for Jason's college. Richard laughed right in my face. He said, "Why would I pay for your college? You're not my kid. Ask your real dad for money." Oh wait, he abandoned you because even he didn't want you. I ran to my room and cried for hours. Mom fought with Richard about this. She screamed at him. She said, "How can you be so cruel to a child? Jennifer has lived in this house for 13 years. You're supposed to be her father." Richard said, "I never wanted to be her father. I wanted you. She just came with a package." I had to work 3 jobs while going to college. I worked at a restaurant at night. I worked at a library on weekends. I cleaned offices early in the morning. I barely slept. I was so tired all the time. But I kept going because I wanted to make something of myself. Tiffany and Jason had it easy. Richard paid for everything. They didn't have to work. They went to parties and had fun while I worked myself to exhaustion. They would post pictures on social media of their nice lives while I was scrubbing toilets at 5 a.m. I graduated college at the top of my class. I got a job as an engineer at a big company. I made good money finally. I got my own apartment far away from Richard's house. I was free. But I still visited my mom every week. She was getting older, and I loved her so much. She was the only person who ever really loved me. Every time I visited, Richard would make comments. "Oh, look, the stranger is here," he would say. Or, "Did you come to ask for money?" When I was 28, my mom got cancer. It was very bad cancer. The doctors said she only had about a year to live. My whole world fell apart. Mom was everything to me. I took time off work to take care of her. I moved back into that horrible house because Mom needed me. I gave her medicine. I cooked her food. I held her hand when she was scared. I slept on the couch because Tiffany still had my old room and refused to give it back. Richard didn't help at all. He said taking care of sick people made him uncomfortable. Tiffany and Jason visited maybe twice the whole year. They said hospitals smelled bad and made them sad. They were too busy with their own lives. Mom got weaker and weaker. One night, she called me to her room. She could barely whisper. She said, "Jennifer, my sweet girl, I'm so sorry for everything. I should have protected you better. I should have left Richard years ago." I told her it was okay, that I forgave her, that I loved her more than anything. She smiled, but tears rolled down her face. Then Mom said something that shocked me. She said, "Jennifer, I need to tell you a secret. This house, it's not Richard's house. It's mine. My parents left it to me when they died. Richard's name is not on the deed. Only mine is." I didn't understand. Richard always acted like he owned everything. He made all the decisions about the house. He treated it like his kingdom. Mom continued, "I'm leaving the house to you in my will. Everything I have goes to you. Richard doesn't know this. He thinks because we're married, he'll automatically get the house when I die. But I made sure that won't happen. I went to a lawyer years ago and set it up. The house is yours." She grabbed my hand tight. "There's more. You know that lake house we used to visit when you were little? Before I married Richard? That was my parents' house too. I still own it. Richard doesn't even know it exists. I've been renting it out for years. All that money is in a separate bank account. There's almost $300,000 saved up. That's yours too." My mouth fell open. I had no idea. Mom said, "The papers are in a safety deposit box at First National Bank. The key is taped under the bottom drawer of my jewelry box. Don't tell Richard anything. Wait until after I'm gone. Promise me." I promised her even though my hands were shaking. Mom died 2 weeks later. I was holding her hand. I told her I loved her over and over until she took her last breath. The pain of losing her was worse than anything Richard or his kids ever did to me. The funeral was small. Richard cried fake tears for everyone to see. Tiffany and Jason looked bored. They kept checking their phones during the service. After the funeral, we all went back to the house. Richard acted strange. He was being nice to me for the first time in 25 years. He said, "Jennifer, I know we've had our differences, but we're family. We need to stick together now." I knew he was being fake, but I didn't say anything. That night, Richard called a family meeting. Tiffany and Jason sat on the couch looking smug. Richard said, "Now that your mother is gone, we need to discuss the house. As the husband, I inherit everything. I've decided to sell this house and buy a smaller one. The three of us don't need all this space." He looked right at me when he said, "Three of us. Not four. Three." Then Richard said the words that I knew were coming. "Jennifer, you're an adult now with your own job. It's time for you to move on with your life. I'm giving you 1 month to find your own place and move out." Tiffany smiled. "Yeah, this house is for real family. No offense." Jason laughed. "Finally. We should have kicked you out years ago." Richard pulled out his phone and showed me a text he was about to send. It said, "You're not my real daughter, so get out of my house forever." He said, "I'm sending this to make it official. You have 30 days. He pressed send. The message came through to my phone. I looked at it and felt all the years of pain and abuse come flooding back. All the times he made me feel unwanted. All the times he chose his real kids over me. All the times he told me I didn't belong. But then I thought about what Mom told me. About the house. About the money. About how she made sure I would be okay. And I smiled. Richard saw me smile and got angry. "What's so funny? You think this is a joke? Pack your stuff and get out." I stood up slowly. I looked at Richard, then at Tiffany, then at Jason. I said, "I'm not going anywhere." "But you are." Richard laughed. "Excuse me? This is my house. I'm the man of the house. You can't tell me what to do." I pulled out my phone and called the lawyer, Mr. Henderson. I put him on speaker. "Mr. Henderson, can you please explain to Richard and his children who owns this house?" Mr. Henderson's voice came through the speaker. "Certainly. The house located at 742 Oakwood Drive is owned 100% by the late Mrs. Patricia Morrison. She left it entirely to her daughter Jennifer in her will. Richard has no legal claim to the property. He will need to vacate within 30 days unless Jennifer allows him to stay." The room went completely silent. Richard's face turned white as a ghost. "That's impossible," he whispered. "We're married. I automatically inherit everything." Mr. Henderson continued. "No, sir. Mrs. Morrison owned this house before your marriage. She kept it as separate property. She was very clear in her will that everything goes to Jennifer." Tiffany jumped up. "No. This isn't fair. This is our house too. We grew up here." I looked at her and said, "You spent every weekend since you were 8 telling me I didn't belong here. You said you'd kick me out when you grew up. Remember?" Jason stood up too. His face was red with anger. "You can't do this. Where will we live?" I looked at Richard. This man who made my childhood a nightmare. Who told me over and over that I wasn't his real daughter. Who never loved me. Who never even tried. I said, "You texted me that I'm not your real daughter and I need to get out of your house. But this was never your house. It was always my mom's house. And now it's my house." Richard tried to speak, but no words came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air. I continued. "You have 30 days to move out. All 3 of you. Take your things and leave. You're not welcome here anymore." Tiffany started crying. Real tears this time. "Please, Jennifer. We're sorry. We didn't mean all those things we said. We love you. You're our sister." I laughed. A cold laugh. "Now I'm your sister? For 25 years you told me I wasn't family. You broke my things. You lied about me. You made every day of my life miserable. And now you love me?" Jason got down on his knees. "We'll be better. Please let us stay. We don't have anywhere to go." I looked at all three of them begging me. The same people who made me feel small and worthless for decades. The same people who laughed when I wore old clothes. The same people who took everything and left me with nothing. You have 30 days, I repeated. If you're not gone by then, the police will remove you. Richard tried one more time. His voice was shaking. Jennifer, please. I'm sorry. I should have treated you better. I see that now. Can we start over? I walked right up to him. I looked him in the eyes. You told me for 25 years that I'm not your real daughter. You were right. I'm not. And you're not my real father. You never were. Real fathers don't treat their children the way you treated me. Real fathers don't make children feel unwanted in their own home. You're just a man who married my mother. Richard's eyes filled with tears. But I felt nothing for him. No pity. No sadness. Nothing. Over the next 30 days, I watched them pack up their lives. Richard tried to take furniture that belonged to my mom. I had the lawyer send him a letter listing exactly what he could take. Only his personal belongings and things he bought with his own money. Tiffany cried every day. She begged me to let her stay. She said she'd pay rent. She said she'd be nice. But I remembered every time she pulled my hair. Every time she broke my toys. Every time she lied to get me in trouble. I said no. Jason tried to guilt-trip me. He said, your mom wouldn't want this. She'd want us to be a family. I told him, my mom wanted me to have this house. That's why she left it to me. If she wanted you here, she would have said so. On the 30th day, they moved into a small apartment across town. Richard had to get a second job because rent was expensive. Tiffany had to drop out of graduate school because Richard couldn't afford to pay for it anymore. Jason had to sell his nice car and buy an old used one. I stayed in the big house. The house where I was told I didn't belong. I cleaned out every room. I got rid of all their stuff. I painted the walls colors I liked. I made it mine. I also found out about the lake house. Just like Mom said, it was beautiful. I stopped renting it out. Now I go there on weekends to relax. I sit on the dock and think about my mom, about how she loved me even when nobody else did. The $300,000 that Mom saved, I used some of it to pay off my student loans. The rest I invested. I'm building a good life for myself. A life that Mom wanted me to have. Richard texts me sometimes. He asks for money. He says he can't afford his rent. I block his number every time. Tiffany sent me a long email about how sorry she is. I deleted it without reading the whole thing. Jason showed up at my door once. I called the police, and they took him away. Last week was Thanksgiving. I cooked a big dinner just for myself. I sat at the long table where I used to eat the smallest portions. Now the whole table is mine. The whole house is mine. Everything my mom worked for is mine. I thought about inviting them over. For just 1 second, I thought about giving them another chance. But then I remembered that text message. You're not my real daughter, so get out of my house forever. So I sat alone and ate my dinner. And I smiled. Because the man who said I had to get out of his house is now living in a tiny apartment he can barely afford. The girl who said I'd never be part of the family now watches me live in the family house while she struggles to pay her bills. The boy who pushed me down and called me names now drives past the big house that could have been his if only he'd been kind. They treated me like I was nothing for 25 years. They told me I didn't deserve to be there. They made every day a battle just to feel like I existed. But my mom saw everything. She knew who really loved her. She knew who stayed when everyone else left. And she made sure that the girl they called an outsider inherited everything, while the real family who treated her like trash got exactly what they deserved. Nothing but the memory of what they could have had if only they'd chosen love over cruelty.